For the first 3 seasons of Smallville, Lana Lang is one of the show's most important characters. But despite all the screen time she gets, much of her story revolves around the people around her. Suddenly, Lana is at the center of an ancient mystery involving witches, family secrets, and powers that have almost nothing to do with Superman. It's one of the most controversial storylines in Smallville history. But was it really as random as it seemed? Today, we're looking at why the show gave Lana the witch storyline and whether it actually worked. To understand why Season 4 feels so different, go back to the beginning. In Season 1, she's arguably one of the emotional centers of the entire show. Clark's feelings for her are a huge part of his desire for a normal life. Whitney's relationship with her defines much of his character. Her parents' deaths during the meteor shower connect her emotionally to the event that brought Clark to Earth. The Talon gives her another connection to Smallville's past. And as the seasons continue, Lana becomes involved with Clark, Chloe, Lex, Adam Knight, Lionel's schemes, and countless meteor-related threats. So the problem isn't Lana doesn't have anything to do. She does. The more interesting question is, how often does Lana actually control where the larger story's going? And that's where a pattern starts emerging. Clark's story begins his origins, powers, choices, and his relationship with Jor-El. Lex's story begins with his relationship with Lionel and obsession with the truth, his struggle between the person he wants to become and the person he's slowly becoming. Chloe has journalism. Her curiosity actively creates stories because she goes looking for answers. Lana's stories are different. Whitney leaves, Lana reacts. Clark keeps secrets, Lana reacts. Adam enters her life carrying secrets of his own, and Lana gets pulled into the mystery. That doesn't make her weak, and it doesn't mean she lacks character development. But it does mean Lana occupies a strange position in early Smallville. And by the end of Season 3, that distinction starts becoming much more important. Smallville itself was changing. The show that began with Clark hiding his powers while trying to survive high school couldn't stay there forever. Clark was learning more about Krypton ever since Jor-El had entered the story. Lex's relationship with Lionel was becoming darker and the mythology was expanding. Season 4 was about to introduce someone else who created an interesting problem for Lana: Lois Lane. Now think about Lana's position entering that season. The Clark and Lana relationship had already gone through years of will they, won't they, secrets, breakups, reconciliations, and jealousy. Another relationship alone wasn't enough to reinvent Lana. And if the show simply kept repeating those same conflicts, there was a risk that one of its central characters would begin feeling trapped in a story the rest of Smallville was rapidly outgrowing. So Season 4 makes a radical change, and that's when something changes. For once, Clark needs answers that Lana's story possesses. This might be the most overlooked part of the entire witch storyline. Season 4 doesn't simply give Lana a subplot. It makes her essential to the season-long mythology. Countess Isabel isn't some isolated meteor freak story that disappears after one episode. Her history becomes intertwined with Gertrude and Genevieve Teague. That creates all different connections to Clark's Kryptonian destiny. Look at how unusual that is. Normally, Lana gets pulled into Clark's world. Here, Clark's world gets pulled into Lana's. That's a massive reversal. The symbols Clark needs to understand, the artifacts everyone is searching for, the Teague family's agenda, the supernatural history behind Isabel, and all of it intersects with Lana. Remove Lana from Season 4, and a huge portion of the season's central mystery collapses. That's why I think simply calling this Lana's witch storyline undersells what the show actually attempted. This wasn't just about giving Lana magic. It was about giving her narrative importance, independent of Clark. For once, Lana doesn't matter because she's a love interest. She matters because she possesses something the story itself needs. And whether you like the execution or not, That's a major evolution for her character. There are things about Season 4 Lana that work surprisingly well when you separate them from the witchcraft itself. First, she's more independent. She leaves Smallville and spends time in Paris and enters a new relationship. She begins investigating her own family history, and she has information other characters don't have. She makes choices that directly affect the season's larger story. And most importantly, the audience isn't simply waiting for Clark to reveal something to Lana. Lana has secrets of her own. This is probably where the storyline lost a lot of people. Because it's one thing to introduce a mysterious tattoo. It's another thing entirely to have Lana possessed by her 17th century ancestor, while Chloe and Lois are possessed by witches too. Suddenly we're watching magic, possession, spell books, witchcraft, and 3 characters throwing Clark around with supernatural powers. It's weird. And depending on what you want from Smallville, it's either incredibly entertaining or completely ridiculous. Even the Talkville rewatch of Spell, featuring Tom Welling, Michael Rosenbaum, and guest Kristen Krug, leaned into the episode's unusual, heightened nature, rather than pretending this was an ordinary episode of the series. Lana could have become increasingly interested in archaeology after discovering her family's connection to the artifacts. The Teague family could still have manipulated her, and Genevieve could still have been obsessed with the stones. Lana could have gradually discovered that something connected her family's past to Clark's future. That alone would have put her directly inside the mythology, or the show could have leaned harder into Lana's investigative side. Instead of being possessed by Isabel, Lana could have been the person uncovering Isabel's history. That changes the character dynamic completely. Because now, Lana isn't important, because an ancestor is using her body. She's important because Lana herself figures it out. And maybe that's what makes this storyline so frustrating for some viewers. The underlying idea isn't bad. In fact, I think it's actually pretty smart. The show recognized that Lana needed something bigger. The problem was the vehicle they chose to get her there. So, did it actually work? That depends entirely on what we're measuring. If the question is, did Season 4 give Lana a story independent of Clark? Absolutely. Probably more than any season before it. If the question is, did Season 4 make Lana essential to the larger plot? Again, yes. Remove her connection to Isabel, the Teagues, and the Stones, and huge pieces of the season disappear. But if the question is, did the witch storyline deepen our understanding of Lana Lang herself? That's where the answer gets complicated. The witch story wasn't really about witches, and that's why I've started looking at this storyline differently. Do I think every part of it works? No. There are moments where the Countess storyline feels completely disconnected from the show around it, and there are moments where Isabel overshadows the character the storyline is supposedly developing. But I also don't think it's random. Underneath the witches, the spells, and the ancient prophecy, Season 4 accomplishes something important. It changes Lana's position in Smallville. So where do you land on Lana's Season 4 storyline? Do you think giving her the Countess mystery finally gave Lana the independence her character needed? Or would you have kept the Teagues and the Stones and gotten rid of the witches completely? Let me know, because I think this is one of those Smallville storylines where the idea behind it may actually be better than the storyline itself. Subscribe for more deep dives into the characters, relationships, and controversial storylines that shape the series.